Hey, listen, if you in your car, if you with your family, if you in the backyard having a cookout, I need you to turn this all the way up, cause it's about to go live. Woo! This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me, and the show can't take it away. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me, and the show can't take it away. You see the vibes, I know you see the light and how it shines. I'm a child of God, why you look surprised? I'm super fly, I won't apologize, cause I walk in favor, I got flavor. Salt of the earth, I can't lose my savor. Jesus Christ, yeah, that's my savior. Eyes on the cross, I don't see no hate. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Yeah, yeah, I once was lost, but now I'm found.
Joy. Oh, I'm sorry. I got carried away again. Just something about that song just really, I don't know, excites me, makes you want to dance, move. Well, hello and welcome to Motivation Moments with Zenja Bloomfield. It's the great takeover, and I am thrilled to be your host tonight. Well, happy Women's History and Finer Womanhood Month. Shout out to all my Zeta sorors. So since it's Women's History Month, and as a finer woman myself, especially with yesterday being International Women's Day, my husband and I thought it would be a great idea for me to take over tonight's episode. So as always, with each show, we want to bring you encouragement, inspiration, and motivation to help you grow with each and every aspect of your life. But before we get into tonight's conversation, I have a few quick announcements. So first, I want to thank all of you for watching. Thank those who have already subscribed to our channel and are faithful and committed to watching us every week. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube if you have not already done so. We would love for you to continue watching our show and support us. Also, if you have not, Rooted in Boldness, discover the extraordinary stories of imperfect women who embraced bold faith and transformed their lives through God's grace. Please get your copy today. Please get your copy today. So now, as we celebrate Women's History Month, it's only right that we have conversations that truly empower and uplift women. That's why I'm so excited about tonight's guest, who is on a mission to replace misinformation with real evidence-based knowledge about women's health. She's a powerhouse in the world of functional medicine and healthcare. She's a board-certified family nurse practitioner, a functional medicine expert, and the founder of TAG Family NP. She specializes in hormone optimization and metabolic health. She likes helping high-performing women and couples take charge of their health, but her impact doesn't stop there. Through her company, TAG Turnkey Solutions, she also equips healthcare providers with the tools they need to scale their businesses without burnout. She's passionate about women's health, hormone optimization, and empowering providers to offer personalized science-backed care. Please join me in welcoming to the show, Miss Teneika Gravely. Hey, Teneika, how are
Hi,
you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I see you representing that royal blue and white.
Yes, I had to represent for you.
It looks great on you. It looks great on you.
Thank you.
So now I am so glad you could join us tonight. I am, well, aside from being in that stage somewhere between perimenopause and menopause or right at menopause, I'm really not sure. But I am a big advocate for women's health care. And so I just was excited about being able to talk to you and really get some understanding about women's health care. You know, so many times you go to the doctor and they attribute everything to menopause or nothing to menopause, but they never really tell you exactly what it is. And so I'm excited to be able to get some information from you. So just, feel comfortable. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into healthcare?
So I ironically started my career out in banking, and I just always had a passion to want to help other people.
Okay.
So I quit my job and went to nursing school full time, single parent, 3 kids, struggled through it.
Wow.
And then I had my own health struggles. So that's what motivated me to go back to school for my nurse practitioner's license. And I just saw the need for more care for women's health because, like I said, I went through my own struggles. I felt ignored. I was misdiagnosed, mistreated, and that caused me to have an unnecessary operation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I ended up back in the hospital, blood clots, oxygen, 2 years of respiratory physical therapy, all because of, hormone imbalance that no one addressed.
Yeah, I can imagine that wouldn't be, I guess, an easy thing to go through, especially with having your children.
No.
And then here you are, you just, decided to change careers, which, I did the same thing. I tell, children all the time, I'm a high school teacher. And so a lot of times, we tell kids, go to college and, choose something, but they never really know what it is they want to do, right out of high school. And so initially I wanted to be an artist, but my mom was like, I don't think you do well as a starving artist. Then I thought about, okay, well, I want to be an aeronautical engineer. And in any case, I ended up in the Army, supply. And then after I got out, I was like, okay, well, what's next? And then before I knew it, accounting, and never thought I would be a teacher. And then all of a sudden I found myself being a teacher. And now what I teach is career and technical education, which one of the fields they offer is health. And so I think that's a great thing, for students to be able to talk to someone that they can relate to help them kind of figure out, if that's a field that they may want to try. So I think that's great. So how long have you been in the field?
Oh, I've been in healthcare almost 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. Feels like yesterday. Almost 20 years. I've been in functional medicine just within the past 5 years. But functional medicine has just changed my whole way of thinking, changed my world. Because usually what happens is in Western medicine, you know, you get sick, you go to the doctor. They may draw a few labs, run a few tests, but you always don't walk out with an answer. You'll walk out with a prescription.
For sure.
You'll walk out with something that's going to band-aid what's going on, but you never really walk out with something that's actually going to fix the problem. And in the world of functional medicine, that's not good enough. We have to get down to the root cause. We have to figure out, okay, well, what's really going on? Why is this really happening? What can we do to resolve this? And, you know, I fell in love with that way of being a provider for others. And I mean, it's not to say that, you know, if you need a prescription medication for some things, obviously you need it, right? But the thing is, with the world of functional medicine, you want to, you know, do lifestyle changes, do nutrition changes, monitor your stress, monitor your sleep, monitor, you know, things that could be affecting your health around the environment. So it's more of a holistic approach.
Okay, so now is that the difference, I guess, between traditional medicine? Because, you know, typically we hear that term, traditional medicine. So it's really new for me hearing the whole aspect of functional medicine.
Yes. So traditional medicine, like I said, you usually go in, they say, oh, sometimes they'll say, we have no idea why you're feeling this way. But here, let me write you a script. And let's just
for ibuprofen.
And then, you know, send you home, send you on your way, tell you to follow up with your primary care provider, who you probably can't get in to see for a few months. But in the world of functional medicine, we actually take the time, you know, to see what's going on. We're really nosy with our intake. We want to, you know, find out, when did the symptoms start? You know, what were you doing? What type of environment were you in? What do you do for work? You know, things like that. We look at everything from a holistic approach, how your whole lifestyle, your diet, anything that can contribute to the symptoms that you're having.
Because the idea is for the symptoms and the pain to go away, not just to mask them.
Exactly. You want to find out exactly what it is, what's happening, and then tackle that. And then, like I said, sometimes you do need a prescription medication. Sometimes things can be fixed with just diet and lifestyle. You know, sometimes it's a combination of both.
But the goal is not to end up taking 12 different medicines. It's one thing to take a multivitamin, but then you've taken something for diabetes, you're taking something, you know, for high blood pressure, you know, all
and that's the thing.
Digestion.
You know, what we see is there are some people, for example, diabetics. If you need to be on 2 or 3 medications to control that one diagnosis, then that's not really what's going on. There's something else that's causing the same symptoms that mimics that diagnosis, and that's what you have to tackle.
Oh, wow. Now, I know if there are any of you out there watching and you have any questions throughout the course of the show, please feel free to ask. And I'm sure if Teneika can answer them, you know, she'll do her best to answer them for you. But your health is really important. It's really all you have. You know, my husband would say it best, your health is your wealth. And so it is really important, especially us as Black women, to make sure that we get the information we need, because we are so underserved. You know, I think people expect us to be strong in every aspect. And so, especially when it comes to our health. And, you know, for us, as a mother of 3, I'm sure there have been days when you have not felt so well, but you had to keep pushing. You couldn't just lay down and be sick.
Exactly.
You had to
do what you had to do.
Yep. Yeah. Not that, you know, men aren't, you know, allowed. You know, it's just things are different, you know. For those that are married and have kids, I'm sure they can tell you when they were sick, the husband had a hard time managing the household. Like it's just something, you know, they don't do well with illness, and we like to get things done still.
We get it done. We keep it trucking.
Yes. So what do you see, I guess, as a major issue? Well, before we get started, Alonda, I really would like, there's a reel that you have posted on your Instagram that I really liked, and I wanted to share with the audience. Alonda, do you have that where you can play it? Thank you.
Morning sickness, endometriosis, menopause, migraines, PCOS. What's happening to your body? We don't know because we never really studied the female body. Female body. Say it's all in my head, but the research is quite spotty. No, we've never really studied the female body. I go to the doctor to get dismissed. Try losing weight, you're just anxious. That's fine, that's cool, I'm not pissed. Just wait 10 years for a diagnosis. Psychosomatic, you're so dramatic. Hysterical, emotional, hormonal, erratic. Heart disease, chronic fatigue, depression and anxiety. Do you have pain? No, you don't. Because we never really studied the female body. Female body. More mysterious than the Illuminati. No, we've never really studied the female body.
More mysterious than the Illuminati. I could really relate to that. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, I got to hear what this is all about. What do you mean when you say, we've never really studied the female body?
So that was a song that I had got off of Instagram from Farad. And basically what the message of the song is, throughout our history, all the research that's been done have mostly been done for men. We really haven't had research that's been done for women, especially in the menopause world. Even if you look up research studies, or if you look up money that's being allocated, menopause is at the bottom of the totem pole.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just been, the way society has been just throughout time. Women have never been at, the top of anything. Everything has been driven towards males. Most of the research that was done has been on males. And it's really, even for, if we dig even deeper, even for Black women, we really don't have research that focuses on our health in particular. Because, for whatever reason, it could be environmental, cultural, our bodies, all respond differently, right?
Yes.
So a lot of things that would work for women in other races or other cultures don't necessarily work for Black women.
Yeah,
So,
and you always hear that we're predisposed to so many other things.
mm-hmm. And a lot of it probably is environmental, socioeconomic reasons and things like that. But yeah, we just don't have money that's being allocated to research things that are going on with our bodies. So that was the message of the song. We are doing better, roughly, if that's what you want to call it. We are definitely in a better position than we have been in the past. Okay. And I think now it's starting to get to the forefront. Women that are in perimenopause, in the menopause phases, we have more attention drawn to the subject. So hopefully as time goes on, more research will be done, more money will be allocated, and we can start getting the treatment that we need and deserve.
Yeah, I mean, I would really like to see that happen, especially as Black women. I feel like in today's time, it's hard for us to leave work and to see about our health. And so then to go see about our health and then almost feel like we've had our time wasted, and to leave still with no more answers than we, went there with.
And then, that you're right, because a lot of times what happens is we wait until the last minute, right? Because we're so busy taking care of everybody else. We kind of just hold off on ourselves. We say, like we talked about earlier, we just truck through. I'll be okay. I'll be fine. You take a Tylenol or something and try to squeeze in a nap maybe. But then by the time you do go get seen, things are exponentially worse. And then you still don't know if you're going to get the answers that you need or the treatment that you need, Yeah. So it's definitely a cycle that we have to break and maybe, pass down, talk to our children or the younger generation educate them on their bodies, what certain signs and symptoms they need to watch out for. Definitely know what your family history is, so that, you can be aware of things, because I find out that that's a lot of reasons why we go through what we go through. We don't have the proper family history, or things just don't get, passed down, so that we'll
or
know.
even die, or even diagnosed, because I know there have been
Mhm.
issues where a mother may die of something, and because they never really knew what it was, they attributed it to something else, like maybe heart failure or something, and so whatever it was that the underlying cause gets
Mhm.
misdiagnosed or missed, and then meanwhile that trait is passed on, and then the child becomes sick, and they still don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's just becoming a vicious cycle that we have to. It's up to us. It's our responsibility to break the cycle.
So, ladies, so today is my Zetaversary. So thank you, Alana, for remembering that. I want to say, happy Zeta anniversary to my other line sisters, but also I want to commit at this moment to every year on my Zetaversary, reminding my sorors and my line sisters to make sure, if you haven't already made your appointments for your physicals or your checkups, to please go and do that. Please go and do that. So
Mhm.
you listen, take notes if you have to. I got my pad and my pen, and I'm ready to write things down, because hey, I refuse to be taking pain pills even 2 years from now, 10 years from now. Like I want to
Mhm.
really figure out what is going on, so that I know what to tell a doctor, what to look for, what test I need to be asking for. So what can you tell us more about, the issues that women have, especially when it comes to menopause? Because I'm thinking there's what, perimenopause,
Mhm.
and there's menopause, and then there's postmenopause, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So this is a never-ending cycle? Like, really?
Yeah. So how it works is, when you're entering the stage of menopause,
Mhm.
usually it can be anywhere from around 45 to 55 years old. During that phase, your body is erratic. Things start happening, you notice some changes. And honestly, because of environmental factors, some women can experience these changes even prior to 45, as early as their mid to late 30s. So, the definition of menopause is no menstrual cycle for 1 year, a total of 1 year.
Okay.
The problem with that is, what if you have an IUD? What if you've
Mm.
had a partial hysterectomy? What if you've had an ablation? What if you have PCOS? So there's things that will cause you not to have a cycle. So some women are like, well, how do I really know if I'm in menopause?
Yeah, because that's where I am. I've had the hysterectomy, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, did it start right away? But then I'm feeling like, okay, because I was told before that I was perimenopausal, and that was a possibility for why I was having the issues I was having.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how do you really know where you are in the process?
So there's a few things. There's always labs that you can have done.
Okay.
With your labs, there's FSH, LH. Those are the labs that the brain signals down to your ovaries, to start your cycle.
Mm-hmm.
If those numbers are high, that's an indication that you're in menopause. Another thing is, or another lab you can do, some people will do a anti-Müllerian lab, and that kind of tells us how your ovarian function is.
Okay.
So that's another lab that you can have. The other thing we really do is just, look out for signs and symptoms. We'll look at your age. There's a genetic factor where they say you kind of go into menopause around the same age as your mom. So if your mom went into menopause early, you'll probably go into menopause early. If she went into menopause late, you'll probably go late. But
That's why another reason why it's good to know your family history.
there are other contributing factors that can kind of throw that off, though, because
Now
if you're
you mentioned, I'm sorry to interrupt. You mentioned what was it? PCOS?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that one of our viewers says that they have it. What is that?
Polycystic. Why am I drawing a blank?
Okay.
So PCOS is when you have high androgen, so like a high testosterone level.
Hmm.
And women who suffer with PCOS have irregular cycles. They have fertility issues. Some of them have issues where they grow hair in places they don't want to grow hair in,
Okay.
have difficulty losing weight. So there are several, signs and symptoms that they'll have that'll cause them to say, hey, wait, something's going on. Something's not right. You have to definitely get your labs done. It'll just be, like your sex hormones, your progesterone, testosterone, estrogen, your LH, FSH, cortisol. Those are all, and thyroid. So those are all the labs that you want to have drawn as far as your hormone labs go. Obviously, you're going to get a CBC, CMP, and other things like that because we want to check, your nutrients. We want to check electrolytes. We want to check to see how healthy your blood cells are. We'll check your liver panel, things like that. So then what happens from there is once you've had the diagnosis of PCOS, then you have to get into a treatment plan.
Okay.
So it also depends, are you wanting to have children? Are you doing this for symptom management? Either way, the treatment plan is the same. It's definitely going to be first and foremost lifestyle, nutrition, sleep, stress. We want to have everything managed because we want to optimize you. There are definitely certain things, especially, and it's just not with PCOS, it's with any hormone replacement therapy. I really don't know any provider personally that will start you on hormone replacement therapy if you're a smoker or if you're a drinker,
Because those things in themselves cause other problems, right?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And although bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, which is hormone replacement therapy that is identical to the hormones that our body produce,
Mm-hmm.
does not cause, things like blood clots and, leading to like cardiovascular issues or stroke. Synthetic hormones do come with that risk. But if you're drinking and you're smoking and doing recreational drugs and you're not leading a healthy lifestyle, there's no way we're going to put hormones or peptides into your body.
Makes sense.
So you
You're being
definitely
reckless with your life anyway. So
exactly. So you definitely have to, optimize, and at least, we're not expecting you to do a full 360, but I don't know any responsible provider that's going to start you on hormone replacement therapy if you're actively smoking or drinking.
okay. So now we say PCOS can lead to menopause. What other things?
Well, not that it leads to menopause. It's the fact that if you have PCOS, you're going to have irregular cycles. So sometimes the cycles are so irregular, and if you're in that perimenopause, menopause phase, you may not know, if you've actually reached menopause because you don't have an actual cycle. Same with the IUD, or same with a hysterectomy or an ablation. If your actual cycle, which should be roughly around every 28 days.
But if it's not,
you don't have that cycle, and women are in that phase of their life, they're like, well, how do I know if I'm in menopause? I haven't had a cycle, in a few years. So those are things that we look for when we draw your labs.
I think one of the viewers, she said something about sometimes she can, with the unwanted hair, she could grow up a beard like Papa Smurf.
Mm-hmm.
Like, things which you have to laugh at, because we have to laugh to keep them crying sometimes. But
that's one of the biggest.
Really aggravating, like I know I get this one little whisker and it can be microscopic, but if I just feel like just the little tip of the hair, like it's going to bother me until I can, like pull it out. So, I can't imagine what it would be like, to suffer, with the extra testosterone, and, how that can make you feel, insecure about your body, when you have all these other things going on.
Yeah, there's there's hair, there's actually another diagnosis too, just in case anybody's listening and you're like, oh, I don't have, PCOS, but I'm growing hair. If you have things like hypothyroidism, that's another thing that can cause hair growth. So, you definitely just want to get everything checked holistically. Don't go to a provider and they say, oh, well, we'll just check only this. Everything needs to be checked, because if one thing is off, 9 times out of 10, it's just a domino effect and everything will be off. But yeah, with PCOS, it can be definitely very aggravating. There's the hair growth, there's acne, that's really hard to get rid of. And the acne usually goes around the line of a beard, like the chin area. There's definitely different types of treatment options. Your provider should be able to go over that with you, and just to see, what you're most comfortable with, what the provider's most comfortable with, what your labs are. There's things like spirulactone, there's metformin, there's, a big one would be a GLP-1, because you want to reduce inflammation. The GLP-1 is like the semaglutide, tirzepatide. The brand names are like Wegovy, Mounjaro, things like that. That's pretty big. So a lot of my PCOS patients are on a GLP-1 to help reduce the inflammation, because that's one of the biggest problems in patients with PCOS.
Okay. Now, would you recommend, I guess, that women do their own research before they go to the doctor, just so they, she said she was going to an endocrinologist.
Yeah. So, endocrinologists, they're good. I'm not saying anything negative about any other providers at all. But the thing is, they're still taught, that traditional medicine. So they may not draw, again, all the necessary labs. They may just stick with what, air quote, regular standards of care are. A lot of endocrinologists, even a lot of women health doctors, or providers in general, they're just not properly trained when it comes to managing hormones. And you can speak with a lot of them and they'll tell you. I know a few women's health physicians who said that they gotten less than 30 days of, menopause training during their residency.
Oh, wow.
So
it impacts so many women.
So they are honestly just not properly trained. I've had providers who've brought their patients or recommended or referred their patients to me to manage their hormones. So, seeing an endocrinologist is not wrong, but you definitely want to make sure that you're educated so that you have the proper tools to advocate for yourself.
Okay. So now, determining whether it's perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause, is that just based on your age?
So when you reach perimenopause, you'll know, because you're going to start to have symptoms, right? So let's just say, in a perfect world, you had a cycle every 28 days, you had no issues with your cycles. Then all of a sudden now you're moody, irritable, fatigue, can't sleep at night. You get insomnia, heart palpitations, joint pain, frozen shoulder. Like, the list can go on and on and on. Weight gain, especially around the belly area. Those are all signs and symptoms of perimenopause, right? We have a lot of women in that stage who just has anxiety out of nowhere. They're waking up in the middle of the night with panic attacks and they have no idea why, right? Then we'll say, okay, all the signs and symptoms are leading to perimenopause. You're in that age range. Some providers will say, we don't need to draw labs. We know you're in perimenopause. Let's treat you. Then you have other providers who will say, we're going to get labs to have a baseline. We're still going to treat you, right?
Because I would think that they would want to be sure or have more concrete evidence or something, rather than just you have symptoms. Because I've like not having your cycle being thrown off. I feel like I feel like I went into perimenopause early, but at the same time, I know that there is a family history of, I think the youngest woman in my family to have a hysterectomy was like in her early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And so, nobody ever I still haven't had my hormone levels tested, to even know where I fall in the spectrum. And so it's things like, memory. And how many of us, I started to think, okay, well, maybe I have dementia because, early, because that runs in some of our families too. So it's like, the symptoms seem to run the gamut, so I would think without testing your hormones,
So here's my theory. You get your blood pressure checked all the time. You get your heart rate checked all the time. You get regular labs drawn all the time. You get weighed, why not get your hormone levels checked? Right? So I check a baseline on everyone.
Okay.
You have some providers who feel like there's no need to check a baseline because their reasoning is because during that perimenopause phase, your labs everything's erratic. So you could test today, you could test tomorrow, the next day, and your labs will probably all show a different value.
Wow.
There is value in checking labs because you do definitely want to make sure there's a balance that you should have between your progesterone and your estrogen. So you want to make sure that that balance is there, that you're not estrogen dominant. So that you're prescribing enough, progesterone to balance that out. But then you have some providers who will say, well, I'm just going to prescribe and I'll go based off symptoms alone and I'll increase or decrease,
Yeah,
so
I've had that happen too, where she prescribed a progesterone pill, but she still never checked my hormone levels. But because of other symptoms, I think she just assumed that I was in menopause.
And you got so that's another thing. When you get hormone replacement therapy, always ask for bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and not synthetic.
Okay.
You definitely want bioidentical hormone replacement therapy is derived from yams. There's some yams and soy. That has the same molecular structure as our own hormones do. So our body recognizes it as, as if it's our hormone. When you look at synthetic hormones, it's made from chemicals, right? Birth control pills, for example, is made from pregnant mare's urine. So it's a pregnant horse, the urine from a pregnant horse. Yes.
Are y'all listening?
So
anybody on birth control, you are taking
So if you think about it, horse urine, imagine how many we have, 3 estrogens. We have estrione, which is E1, estrogen, which is E2, and estriol, which is E3. A horse has way more estrogen, different types of estrogen than we have. It's just, it's not compatible. I mean, it worked for so long, but it's definitely better to have bioidentical hormone replacement therapy.
I think if most of us knew that that's what they were giving us and what it was made of, the horse urine, we would probably opt out of that and be like, no, that I don't want that.
So that's going to come from a compound pharmacy. It doesn't come from your regular, CVS or Rite Aid or Walgreens. You're going to get that from a compound pharmacy.
Okay. Now is that going to cost more?
It will be out of pocket. Your insurance won't cover bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. It will be out of pocket, but I mean, the cost, I think it depends on what pharmacy you use as well. Okay. But you can definitely discuss that with your provider. It shouldn't break the bank, for your prescription medication. But it won't be covered by insurance.
Wow. Now I saw Alonda had put up, one of the viewers said, first of all, that you're not going to get the labs you need from the endocrinologist. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I said a lot of times if you go in and you're advocating for yourself, a lot of providers who are not properly trained are just not comfortable. So you can either find a provider who is, or you can find a provider who's willing to give recommendations if, like the endocrinologist or the GYN doctor is open to that. You can, give them recommendations and they'll actually prescribe it. So I do have that type of relationship with a lot of providers. But usually they won't. They'll order either partial labs or they'll just say, no, we're not going to address that. It's fine. You're fine. It's just anxiety. You're depressed.
Which is not what we want to hear.
No. They'll give you a prescription medication for, depression or anxiety, and then they send you out the door. Follow up with your primary care provider.
Yep.
So that's usually what a lot of women hear.
Yep. And then Alonda asked, I'm sorry. Put your question up, Alonda. Can you still have a baby in perimenopause?
Yes. Yes, you can.
So
although your ovaries aren't kicking in full gear like they used to, it is still possible to become pregnant when you're in perimenopause. So you definitely still want to have, protective sex, or just be aware, that that's a possibility that it can happen.
I had an aunt who, I want to say she was in her early 50s. And she was told that, because of menopause or perimenopause, she couldn't have any children. Well, my little cousin, yeah, he still came. To her surprise, and her children were adults, grown adults, so.
Yeah. So with that too, some providers will not treat you for your hormone symptoms if you're on, or like if you have an IUD, or if you're currently taking like an oral birth control and things like that, because, you're trying to prevent pregnancy. Most providers will tell you to tell your partner to have a vasectomy because that's the easiest solution. Most people look at it as if, you're a woman, you're going through enough already, have him get snipped and everybody has a good day. But then that's still not 100%, foolproof, because you can still get pregnant, if he has the vasectomy. But just be aware that some providers will refuse to treat if you are on birth control or have an IUD or, a Mirena or anything like that.
Wow. So now how does, I see that birth control can contribute to menopause, or if you're not, because if you're on something where you're not having a cycle, like I know people have done, what is it, the depot shot or something, so they end up where it just shuts down the cycle at all. Like, how does that throw you off?
So what happens is, like, for example, with the depot shot or the birth control, that's all, synthetic hormones. It essentially suppresses everything. So it's possible that you don't have a cycle, but that does not mean that you're in menopause.
Okay.
So usually what I would say is, it depends on, are you on it because you don't want to have children? Does someone put you on it for symptoms that you were having? So, if you were on it because you didn't want to have children, we can discuss, other things that you and your partner are willing to do. Are you willing, to wear a condom, or are you, going to do the pull-out method? I mean, there's other things that, we can discuss. It still won't be 100% foolproof though.
Yeah.
Then you have to say, okay, are you on these things? Are you on birth control pills because you were having symptoms related to perimenopause? So if that's the case, then we can definitely take you off the synthetic hormones and get you started on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Now, the caveat with that is you getting labs checked after being on oral birth control pills, that will take some time because your hormones are suppressed because you're on the oral birth control pill. So we won't get a true reading. So some will wait at least at a minimum 30 days. Usually it's about 3 months that you'll
Wow.
get an actual reading. So then that's another thing that you have to worry about. Okay, are we going to stop the birth control pill, go through these 3 months of nothing so that we can get that cycle going back again to see where we are?
You got to take your chances.
Right. So it's definitely individualized. It's definitely a discussion that, you need to have with your provider. And that's why I always say, women should at least have foundational knowledge so that they can advocate for themselves. And it's not excluding you from anything, but it's just what route, are you comfortable taking?
Okay. Now, how long does menopause typically last?
Well, once you're in menopause, that's it. Menopause. Okay, by definition, menopause is 1 day. Menopause is that 365th day that you don't have a cycle. Then you go into postmenopause. Postmenopause is postmenopause until,
whenever. So we're in postmenopause.
If you're in postmenopause, the things that you have to worry about. So all the symptoms that you were having during perimenopause, eventually over time, those symptoms will start to fade. But there's a whole other barrel of problems that can develop now, especially if you're not taking hormone replacement therapy. So things like osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, dementia, and Alzheimer's. Those are things that, definitely need to be a concern. So once you reach menopause and you're now in postmenopause, research says that you have this 10-year window to start your hormone replacement therapy so that you have some protection with cardiovascular disease, with dementia, with osteoporosis. And the reason for that is because when you're in menopause, you have a drop in estrogen. Estrogen is cardioprotective. Estrogen, if you think about when men have a heart attack, they can have a heart attack virtually at any time.
Yes.
But when you hear women that have a heart attack, that usually comes mid-40s, 50s, or later. And that's because you have that drop in estrogen. You no longer have that protection that we once had prior to that stage of our life.
Okay, so let me use myself as an example. So I want to say it was 3 years ago that I had my partial hysterectomy. So I still have my ovaries, but all of the symptoms that you talk about, like I have, moodiness, the brain fog, all of it, And so should I be looking at my last appointment? I talked to my doctor about wanting to do the hormone level testing. So is that where I should be to make sure?
Yes, that's where you should start. But if you're having symptoms, don't wait, don't wait until you think you're in menopause. If you're having symptoms and you're in perimenopause, you can start hormone replacement therapy.
Okay. Do you hear that, ladies? You want to start as soon as possible.
You don't deserve to just have all these symptoms and live with these symptoms day to day. There's help. These symptoms can get resolved or at least significantly reduced. Hormone replacement therapy is definitely something that can take time. Sometimes there needs to be adjustments. Sometimes we get it on the first try. Sometimes, it takes a little while longer and you'll definitely feel an improvement, but you won't feel, like your old self again. And that's the goal.
And the only way to do that is to get a prescription from a doctor. Like there are no natural supplements that you can take that would.
So my answer to that is the only thing that's going to optimize your hormones is hormones, but there's definitely lifestyle and nutrition changes that you can do. So for example, when we talk about lifestyle, we're talking about sleep management. You want to get at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Are you someone who suffers with sleep apnea? Are you overweight and that's causing, some of your issues, even with sleep? Are you eating late at night and now you have heartburn and you can't sleep? Or are you getting up to use the bathroom? Like what's disrupting your sleep? That's what you need to find out. And that's what needs to be investigated. Then there's stress. Stress is huge.
Mm.
And the thing with stress, so you have acute stress and you have chronic stress. Acute stress is, things that gives you that adrenaline rush. So if you're preparing for a speech or a test or, your wedding day and you get the jitters and you're like, oh, pumped up. But then eventually, once whatever that event is over, you kind of, you're relaxed,
Yeah.
Chronic stress is living in that heightened state over a period of time.
And a lot of us have done that.
Mm-hmm. Now, with chronic stress comes the risk of increased inflammation. Inflammation comes with its own set of problems: diabetes, cardiovascular disease, dementia, gut issues, bone issues. So you definitely want to make sure that you get that under control. The thing that you can test for that is a cortisol test. You can do an at-home saliva test. It's called a 4-point cortisol. What we're looking for is when you wake up in the morning, technically, if everything, in a perfect world, we wake up, we have that burst of energy that gets us going, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
That's why I said, ideally in a perfect world. Then what happens is as the day goes on, it starts to decline. So at night, our cortisol shuts off, our melatonin kicks in, we're ready for bed.
Okay.
Now, in the real world, we wake up in the morning, we're hitting the snooze button, throwing the alarm clock across the room, you're dragging yourself out of bed. The first thing you have, is a cup of coffee or two or three. Then your day probably gets going 10 or 11. You kind of feel normal. Then about 2 or 3 o'clock, you're ready for a nap, and then you're just constantly busy, busy, busy. And then what happens is at night, instead of us shutting everything off and going to bed, we're in the bed on our laptops, on our phone, the TV's playing, all the lights are on. So you don't give your body time to say, oh, we're winding down. It's time to go to bed, So then what happens is you shut everything off and now you're just laying in bed staring at the wall because you can't get to sleep.
Eyes wide open, right? And you don't know why you can't sleep.
Right.
Only that you're thinking about wanting to sleep, but not sleeping.
Yeah. And then next thing you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Then your alarm's going off and it's a vicious cycle. So what I would suggest is about 2 hours before you plan on going to bed, kind of turn your lights down, dim everything. If you have the light dimmers, or just cut a couple of lamps off. Try to stay off your phone, any electronics. Read a book, take a hot bath, do things that's going to relax you. That's going to put your mind in the mood of, okay, we're getting ready for bed. Then when you go to bed, have a nighttime ritual that you do. Either meditate. Some people do a little stretching before they get in bed, pillow talk with your spouse, anything like that. That's just going to, maybe not pillow talk, because sometimes that can lead to
a disagreement. Right? If the pillow talk is about something serious. Yeah.
So maybe, we'll back off on that one. But
I know I like to listen to, I have an audio. It's only about an hour long, but I never know when it goes off because I'm usually asleep before that hour is. And it starts out with a prayer and then just the reciting of Bible scripture and then just speaking about the word. And I know it says something about imagine how wonderful it would feel to fall asleep in God's arms. And, obviously I do because I
get past that part. Yeah, but that's definitely something that you want to just get in the habit, in the routine. Even when you wake up in the morning, kind of give yourself a breather before your feet hit the floor. Do some meditation. If it's just you sitting in silence, or if it's prayer, or if it's reading, whatever your routine is, just make a daily routine for yourself. Your body loves routine. So you definitely at least want to do that before your feet hit the floor, because once your day gets going, then that stress level is going to kick in, and it's going to be one thing after another. And
Yeah.
like I said, you're just going to get into a vicious cycle that's hard to break. So it definitely has to start with you.
Yeah, I agree. Now, what about, I guess, like our eating habits?
So with eating, when you're in that perimenopause, menopause phase, and this can even definitely start way before then,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things that I know or notice is that we don't get enough protein. Protein is huge for women in this phase. You want to have about 1 to 2 grams per kilogram of your body weight. If you're someone who works out, strength training, resistance training, which is what I also highly recommend, because that's going to help, obviously cardiovascular health, and it's going to help with bone health. You definitely want to have a resistance training, strength training. I'm not saying that you have to be out there and be a bodybuilder, but you do want to incorporate that at least 3 times a week.
Okay.
With the nutrition, definitely get the protein in. And what I also say too, a lot of people aren't good with counting calories, right? You get stressed out.
I don't like counting calories.
Yeah, you kind of get stressed out and you're like, oh, forget it. And then you kind of just go back to your old habits and do whatever it is you want to do. So what I would suggest is just having, a healthy plate. Half your plate, just if you visually cut your plate in half, half of it is with your vegetables.
Okay.
On the other half, you cut that in half. And then you're going to have your protein, and you're going to have your healthy carbs. And then you can have like a drizzle of fats or oils that you can add in there. So that's a good way to plan for nutrition for people who aren't really into counting macros and calories and things like that. The other thing with nutrition that's huge is time restricted eating. Some people call it intermittent fasting.
Yes.
The thing that I want to say is you want to get, and again, everything is habit forming, right? So you want to have at least 12 to 16 hours of a fasting period. I say 12 and 12 because that's usually, easier for some. So if you wake up and you have breakfast at 7 in the morning, try not to have anything else to eat after 7 p.m.
Okay. Because most of the time you're asleep anyway to be able to get that 12 hours, right? Once you do go to sleep.
Ideally, if you're someone who
Sticks to bedtime.
Right. But the thing is, again, a lot of us are so busy, we forget to eat during the day. And then what happens is we get home at night and it's like, oh, shoot, I didn't eat anything. Then you have this overfilled plate that you're scarfing down, and then you're going to go to bed watching TV, right?
Wrong thing to do.
And that's the habit that a lot of us get into. So start with one thing, start either with your 12-hour time, fasting or eating plan. When you wake up in the morning and you have breakfast, try not to eat 12 hours after that time.
Okay.
Start with that. With going to bed, start with dimming your lights, or start with, if you're someone who's just extremely addicted to your electronics, wear blue light glasses, or a lot of the electronics have that switch where you can dim the light.
Yes.
They have it built in. Start with that, or say, I'm only going to do an hour of electronics, because we're all human. No one's expecting you to break a 20-year habit overnight.
That's true. Teneika, this is such great information, and I'm still wanting to talk more. And Alonda's been, letting me know. I didn't just it's already 9 o'clock. Like, I know, like time went by so quick. So I just feel like we should have a part 2 of this conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
To really delve into the other, into other aspects of advocating and our well-being. What if tonight if you had to tell someone or tell the women out there listening or watching, what one thing they should start with tomorrow to look out for to advocate for their health, what would it be?
The one thing I would say to advocate for your health is just definitely know what it is you need as far as your period of perimenopause or menopause. The one thing I would say is definitely, get labs checked, but you want to have the right labs. So I would, do your FSH, your LH, your estrogen, your progesterone. And when they do the estrogen, progesterone, make sure they get the ultra sensitive labs for that. Your testosterone, you're going to do a free and total SHBG. You're going to ask for cortisol. Hopefully they can do the 4-point cortisol. Some people will draw AM cortisol, but that's not really going to tell us much because you're not really getting the blood test done in the time frame that you need to have that done. The other thing you want is a CBC with differential, a CMP. That's going to include all the things that I talked about earlier.
I think I'm going to have to stop you because if you're like me and you're having symptoms, I'm not going to remember any of these.
Well, that's why I wanted to say it down.
So until we're able to have this talking, Alonda, is it possible to get her email address or website or something so that we can get information to her and be able to ask questions? Because I really want to follow up with you and I want to do a part 2. I don't know did you give her an email? What's your how can they reach you or your website? That might be easiest for you.
Yeah, my website is www.tagfamilynp.com.
So www.tagfamilynp.com. Did I say that right? So, and if you did not get that, you can text us, email us. Oh, there it is, tagfamilynp.com. And that way you're able to get the information. Just reach out to her. She can help you. We are going to have to do a part 2 to this because I know if I still have questions, there are lots of other women who have questions. It has been so marvelous talking to you, and I'm so glad that you could join us tonight. Do you have any final words you want to leave with the women?
Just definitely advocate for yourself. Don't accept, nothing's wrong with you or just deal with it or, just having anyone brush you off or ignoring you. Definitely advocate for yourself. You can always reach out to me if you need a consultation, if you need recommendations to give to your doctor, or if you just need, research that I can provide for you so that you can print things out and take to your doctor as well. But definitely advocate for yourself.
That definitely works. We'll have to get with you on that one. So make sure, guys, that you go to her website so we can get more information. Also, if you have enjoyed this conversation, please support us. Remember, you can support our podcast ministry on PayPal or Cash App by going to $ Bloomfield Ting. That's without the H. So just like they would say it if they were Jamaican, please do support us. And our next show will be with, I believe it's Pastor Neville Lindor. He's going to talk about weight gain. And so you won't want to, or his weight loss journey, should I say, not weight. We look, as women, we never want to talk about weight gain. So his weight loss journey, but we will definitely have to get a part 2 in. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much, Teneika.
No problem. I really enjoyed it.
Conversation. Good night, everyone. Remember to be encouraged, be inspired, and be motivated.
Good night.
Morning sickness, endometriosis, menopause, migraines, PCOS. What's happening to your body? We don't know because we never really studied the female body. Female body. Say it's all in my head, but the research is quite spotty. No, we've never really studied the female body. I go to the doctor to get dismissed. Try losing weight, you're just anxious. That's fine, that's cool, I'm not pissed. Just wait 10 years for a diagnosis. Psychosomatic, you're so dramatic. Hysterical, emotional, hormonal, erratic. Heart disease, chronic fatigue, depression and anxiety. Do you have pain? No, you don't, because we never really studied the female body. Female body. More mysterious than the illusion. Illuminati. No, we've never